r/AskReddit. Tajaklarapoo says, what caused you to end your relationship due to something that disgusted you about your partner? Dressing for Revenge says, he said all special needs people should be put into institutions and castrated. He knew my younger brother had special needs. When I explained how ridiculous and hurtful this was, he doubled down and specifically said my younger brother should also be castrated and institutionalized. Kinavin says, what the frick? That's awful. Windywood4 says, my mill believes this as well. In public, she will have a meltdown if sees a special needs person. They didn't choose to be born, whatever that means. The only person who shouldn't be here is you, psycho. Cal Shinnyside says, she made a Sims family of us. Sim me cheated on Sim her with a neighbor Sim, and she was genuinely mad at real me for the transgressions of Sim me. It was then I realized she was nuts. Cautious_ad_8128 says, when I was like 14 I made a real life version of my family in The Sims. Nothing was more traumatizing than watching both of my parents in The Sims die of old age. I stopped playing after that. Frostfallen says, my brother made a Sims family of us when the first game came out, and I stopped enjoying watching when the Sim representing me burned to death cooking a midnight snack. J. Roddy says, she said, and I quote, if you don't let me peg you, I'll find someone else that will. I left that day. Our requirement 6489 says, coercion disguising itself as an ultimatum is just gross, no matter which gender one is. Good on ya for walking away, it only would have gotten worse. I'm sorry she tried to do that to you. J. Roddy says, it's fine, it was only the second day in, so I had absolutely no problem walking Mayo. Dangerous Image 7347 says, absolutely everything. I stayed so long that every memory just turned disgusting or embarrassing. To all the young girls out there, do not stay with that boy who makes you cry every night. Don't stay with that boy who can never have a conversation about your relationship because he's too busy or tired. Don't stay with the boy who doesn't make any real effort for you. That's how a lot of girls waste 10+ years of their life. Met my partner at 15, and he had me roped in for 6 years. Edit, thanks for the love y'all mayo, but I'm good. Sometimes you meet shitty people. But this is the whole point of dating. You're supposed to create a checklist until you find the one that fits. Now I know what to look for in the next person. I know what I don't like. I got what I needed from the relationship, but now it's time to move on. Ladder Betty says, remember how you feel right now. I don't care how, write yourself a letter you read on an annual self-anniversary, set a calendar reminder, write and revisit journals. It's so easy to have clarity at the end of a relationship, and also so easy to give tiny pieces of yourself away in the next one, to the point where you end up in the same situation and don't know how you got there. Only_investigator 935 says, I do get that. Ellis1Beth says, he tried to end a disagreement about housework by suggesting a trip to the mall to shop for an engagement ring. Something he mentioned at no other time before that moment. He tried to appease me with shopping. He and I only argued about housework, and he'd do anything to avoid even discussing it. I just knew at that moment that I would have to do everything, and he would just try to manipulate me to avoid any real discussion. For the rest of my life. No thanks. Maleficent Koala 510 says, he made fun of me being a virgin. I was 16 LMAO. Not only did he make fun of me, but he made fun of a bunch of other girls and said really cruel stuff about them and their bodies when really he couldn't talk. I didn't know till after I broke up with him. He was too immature for me, and I'm so glad I never gave him any part of myself. Alpha Breek says, on the bus a kid tried to make fun of me for my virgin mobile phone. Oh, does that mean you're a virgin? Yeah, I'm 13. It'd be weirder if I had slept with someone. Oh. I feel like this might have been the day he learned what a virgin actually was. car_man says. When I was about 10, a friend asked if I was a virgin, and I said no. He raced up to tell others that I wasn't a virgin, and it was then that I realized I had mistaken virgin for Muslim. Adorable_basis says. Man, I things. His mom had a facial cleansing brush that would spin and vibrate. He put it up his bum. He yoinked one out in the third row seat of his mom's car with his 3-year-old sister and 7-year-old brother in the second row of the car, while his parents were briefly in the store because their car seats blocked their view of him. I'm sure they could still hear everything. He also did it in the same room as his siblings, just behind a wall. There was no door or anything to block view. He was just kind of out of sight, but this was midday when they are running around playing. He slapped me when I told him to stop acting rappy, and when I asked him why he slapped me, he said, well, that's what a real rapist would do, huh. I was very confused. He also used lot of markers or other arts and crafts stuff that were his sister's for bud stuff, and then he would just rinse them off and put it back. That was just the gross stuff, but he also did a lot of bad stuff that's not worth getting into. r/AskReddit. Submajinga Original says. Enough with the dumbest. What is the wittiest thing you've ever heard someone say? Feeling_mode_6465 says. Asked a blind guy if he'd been blind his whole life. He said not yet. Stricking Fetishes says. Definitely didn't see that coming. Thipunisher Max says. I see what he did there. He cold though. Lion Butcher says. I was on a team at work that was on a project working insane overtime. One night after an 80 to 90 hour week, we were all sitting around the table trying to finish up so we could go home. Around 11, my buddy's wife called, dubious about the hours he'd been keeping. We heard her through the line, "Are you cheating on me?" Exasperated, he looked at our boss, then replied, "Honey, if I was cheating on you, I would have been home by now." Aggravating Corgi 379 says. I picked up my pleasantly tipsy boyfriend from a nightclub. We were stopped by the police for a random breath test. They asked me my age, and I said, 33. My BF blurted out, 33. You told me you were 22. Police just laughed and let me go. Stevena 21 says. One Thanksgiving years and years ago, when I must have been 8 or so. My uncle tried to tell the joke, "What has 4 eyes and still can't see?" My immediate response was, "You." He was wearing glasses. The entire family erupted in laughter, and I felt amazing. The answer is Mississippi for anyone who hasn't heard it/not Americans. Aturgu 11 says. Failed dad joke not bad. Arkia Malaki says. I was running to catch an elevator before the doors closed, and I asked the 2 young women inside it if they were going down. One looked at me deadpan and said alright, but I don't swallow. Extension_cable_9815 says. Man, don't tell me you didn't take that opportunity. Sedishia Shamster says. I worked in a warehouse where we had 2 older women 80 plus and a relatively younger one, 50-ish. We also had a salesman who was named Stuart but went by Dick. One day as he walked past the office, the younger asked the older women very innocently, "How do you get Dick out of Stuart anyway?" To which the oldest responded without blinking, "I'm sure all you'll have to do is ask him for a dearie." Needless to say, I totally lost it. Palzen says. Here's a couple of fun ones that always make me smile. In high school, my senior year, the yearbook team asked various kids a question and included the question and answers in the yearbook. The question was, what would you do if you could disregard all laws, morals, and money? His answer, illegal, moral, frugal thing. Another kid I knew in high school made an outlandish claim to me. I challenged him, and our conversation went like this: me, bullshit. My friend, true shit. Me, how do you know that's true? My friend, I read it. Me, where? My friend, I wrote it down, and then I read it. Bert and Ernie says. Haha, the second one is hilarious, but then I realize this is the average conspiracy theory thinker way nowadays lol. Nidsata Mikd says. Business law class in college years ago, talking about the issues that black Americans had before the Civil Rights Amendment, trying to travel through the South with the discrimination so rampant, trying to find restaurants to serve them and decent lodgings. My instructor was posing a hypothetical: so you pull up out front of this place, you're exhausted from driving for hours, and you see the sign out front, says Ku Klux Klan Motel. What would you expect to find there? Without missing a beat, from the back of the room came this gem: extra sheets in every room. Limber Dog says. My doctor told me I could be a bit of a ham sometimes. I told her, doctor, if I was a ham, I'd be cured. She ignored the greatest pun of my life. PBR for me says. My heavyset buddy at a Chinese restaurant was asked if he would like wonton soup. He immediately responded, look at me, I'll take 2 tons of it. Throther Hoops says. You're at the top of the bell curve. Kakuka Kimura says. I love witty things kids say. My 4-year-old niece is the best at it. My sister was taking her to grandma's house and she was misbehaving. She said, if you don't stop I'm going to spank your bottom. My niece immediately without pause said, no you're not because you're driving and you need both hands to drive. My sister then said, I'll spank you at grandma's house. My niece then said, no you won't, because if you spank me at grandma's then grandma will spank you. I couldn't help but laugh. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.